Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Good Movie Monday. This is a special summer edition episode. We promised that we'd be here for at least a couple of episodes during our hiatus. The main show, Good Movie Monday, will be back on March 4th. But here we are, Benjamin and myself, Glenn, to talk about our top 10 movies of 2023. It's a fun time of the year for us, to look back at what was, and I can tell you off the bat that these are not the best movies of 2023 for me. These are just the ones I like the most.
Yeah, I find it is. Look, I mean, of course, it's subjective and all that sort of stuff, but it is. I found this year actually to be quite challenging.
Yep.
Because there were a lot more films that I wanted to like a lot more than I did.
Yeah, right.
And the movies I was kind of expecting to be great weren't as great.
Yep.
And the ones that I thought, it's been a weird year. Plus, I found that I've joked about this all through the year, and I think even last year, maybe my top 10, I think I stuck in a TV series. I found that
No
I'm
doubt.
just watching a lot of TV.
Yeah.
A lot more TV, and the TV has been great. And there's been there's a couple of movies that I left off my list, and I'd be curious to see if they're on your list.
Yes.
But I left them off almost as a punishment because they went for over 3 hours, and fuck you.
Well,
Make them a TV series if it's going to be that long.
we are going to have some crossovers here. I'll be interested to see if we have them in the same position.
Yeah.
But I'm actually, it's interesting because if you've been listening to our show, we did the end of year wrap up with everybody back in December, and we did our top 3.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of changed for me a little bit since then. So
Yeah,
now
me
that
too.
I've collected, more to build up my 10, one of them has dramatically dropped.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, for me, the biggest viewing period of films of the year for me are that 5-day period between Christmas and New Year's, because that's when I try and cram and catch up
Yeah.
on everything that I've put off or missed.
Yeah.
It wasn't as successful as I wanted, thanks to clips of movies on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I need to watch Margin Call. I need to watch this episode of The Rookie.
Yes.
Instead of watching all the movies,
That period that
Of
you're
what the
talking about
crowd.
is where I actually just dive into old movies. Like it's my downtime. It's not work related, and I just
Yeah.
find I binge on discoveries, like old movies I've discovered or old movies I cherish. And so that's what I want to ask. Like, how's your break been so far? Like, have you discovered anything new? Has it just been catching up?
I did watch. I finally got around to watching that movie Run.
Yep.
The with Sarah Paulson about the mother that's
Yep.
has been kind of poisoning her daughter her entire life to keep her close. Mm-hmm. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was another one that I've seen clips of
Yep.
repeatedly, like all of the scenes of the girl in the chemist going, "What's this pill for? What's this pill for?" When she kind of tweaks. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. But as for the rest of it, it has been a lot of TV and also a lot of early nights
Man, that's
where I'm just like, I've spent a lot of I spent a lot of time because I just resubscribed to Netflix,
Yep.
to Apple Plus, and what was the other one? Paramount Plus.
Yes.
And so I've just been going like crazy, scrolling through what they have rather than actually necessarily watching them.
Spending
I've
all your time just going through
going
thumbnails.
through, yeah. And I was shocked. I found Binge.
Yeah.
Binge has a ton of classics.
I just subscribed to that over the break as well.
Yeah.
I had been with it before, dropped off it, and I discovered there were things on there I really wanted to see. For the love of, I can't remember what the one that pushed me over
Yeah.
the line to get back on it was. But yeah, I'm enjoying that.
And one of the movies I watched in the lead up to this was a French movie, and with Laura Calamy from
Yep.
Call My Agent.
Yeah.
And it played at festivals last year. It theoretically was released last year, but in Australia it only got released in Feb.
Yep.
And I was like, where can I was on SBS looking for it, and it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, and SBS for some reason didn't seem to have anything made in 2023.
Yeah.
They're all, a lot of older stuff. And then I looked at the Just Watch website, and of course it came up, and it was on Binge, and I'm like, this is so unusual that this is on Binge. And of course, in typical Binge fashion and Netflix and Stan, I typed in the actual name of the film, and it still was like the fifth.
Yeah, sometimes
Or
it doesn't even
6-1.
bring them up at all.
Yeah.
For me, I just remembered it was Boiling Point, the TV series of the movie.
Yeah, right.
Because
yeah.
I watched the movie and then I was like, I loved it that much. I was desperate to watch the sequel, which is in a 4-episode series. Far out, phenomenal. It's the British version of The Bear. I actually think it's better than The Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was that. What else did I watch over the break? I discovered over Christmas, I think I told you, a Christmas movie from 96, 97 called Riot
Yeah.
with Sugar Ray Leonard, I think his name is.
The
And-
boxer.
yeah,
Or the lead singer from Sugar Ray, Mark McGrath.
no, the boxer and Gary Daniels.
That was just a special plug for Jarrett. Because he's a big Sugar Ray fan.
Yes, but I can't wait to go to next Christmas to watch it again because it's like a Christmas version of Escape from New York. So
Yeah.
made for TV or DVD. That was amazing. I watched The Lost City of Zed, which I've seen once before, but that got better with the second viewing. That was great.
I always get that mixed up with the one with Margot Robbie and
Oh,
Should
the
we
Z
tell
is for
Ejiofor?
Zachariah or whatever.
Yeah, that one. I always get those two mixed up for some reason.
Yeah. One that I've always struggled with and I thought I'd give another go was Marathon Man, Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, is it secret? Is it safe?
Yeah, but that I struggle with that every time I put it
Really?
on. I really find it hard to get into.
I've only seen it once. I remember really loving it that
Yep.
one time.
Yep.
Like, I always find Dustin Hoffman can be a real hit and miss
Yep.
for me.
But I do like that era, Dustin Hoffman. I think
Yeah.
that was his prime, and I don't know what it is about that movie. I think it's just very convoluted. Takes a while to get into.
Have you ever seen Little Big Man?
Oh yeah, the Western he
The
did.
Western,
Yeah.
Because I've never seen it.
Yeah.
But it's referenced and shown in so many
Particularly
films.
the TP scene.
Yeah, yeah, and it's always like it's on the TV in the background. I'm assuming that the clip rights must be incredibly inexpensive for it to be in so many films. Like they talk about Shane in
Yeah.
a lot more films, but they don't show the clip of him falling off the horse at the
Correct.
end. Whereas they constantly have Dustin Hoffman in that teepee.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Prisoners. I revisited that last week, and
Yeah, I actually had planned. I thought when you sent me that message saying that you watch it, I was like, I may have to give
it
this
just
a watch.
improves every time. Like I've already told you, I think it's a perfect film, but every time I watch it, I find new things in there. I'm like, holy fuck! Like that is just such a stunning movie, and I'm gonna say it. It's better than Seven. You know, it's that kind of genre.
Yeah,
Way better. Way better. I don't know why I did that with my hands there. Like,
I know. For me,
I made a weird gesture then, and it was like,
little present for me.
what does that even mean?
But even Seven, like I find thrillers like Seven hard to go back to.
So
once
I think
you know the
Seven's-
twist.
I think Seven is dated as well. It's not the masterpiece I thought it was when I
Yeah.
revisit it now.
But once you know what
Yeah.
the twists are.
That's the beauty, I think, of Prisoners is when you do know where it's going, there's so much more to unearth
yeah.
as you go. And like I pick up
pay
every time I
attention
pick up on something else. I'm like, oh, I didn't really realize that. So it does require a few viewings.
Yeah, all of the nods and all of the clues.
yeah.
that basically tell you, like if you were paying attention when you first watched it.
Well, you should pick up
yeah.
on it if you're a good detective, but there's no way
Yeah.
you possibly can. You got to watch the film through before you know those things are
Yeah.
relevant.
I mean, but it's one of those things. I don't know about you, but when I write trivia questions for things, and I'm like, it's these are like surely people are going to get this. It's obvious. This is obvious. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, of course, it's obvious to me. I know the answer. It's really hard when I would imagine it if you're a writer or a filmmaker putting those things together, going, how do I make this solvable but not obvious?
Yeah, that's right. Well, Prisoners is a masterpiece in that regard. And the only other one I wanted to bring up, which I mentioned to you in text message, was Get Santa. I watched it over Christmas. It's like Guy Ritchie doing Santa Claus the movie. It is like a British...
Which is a great...
Yeah, it's a really sort of gritty British prison film.
Yeah.
And yet it's got the magic of the North Pole and Santa Claus and Jim Broadbent playing Santa Claus in prison with cornrows. It's hilarious. But I'll tell you what, I watched that movie and once again, just cannot wait for next Christmas so I can do it again. I don't know where that movie has been on my life.
Are you a stickler? Will you not watch Christmas movies when it's not Christmas?
Has to be December for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I really cannot. Like, I was gifted...
Like, what you won't watch a Die Hard movie? Or a Die Hard that not count?
Well, no, Die Hard, I don't actually watch until December either, but that's just because it's usually when I feel like watching it.
It's been a year.
Yeah,
it's
that's
been a year
right.
since you watched
That's
it. Yeah.
right. But I got given Santa Claus the movie for Christmas, and I knew I was getting it. It's the 4K release, right? So I was very excited. And when I realized that I wasn't getting it, we had 2 Christmases this year. We had Melissa's family and my family. And when I realized I wasn't getting it for the first Christmas, and then I'd be getting it on Christmas Day, I'm like, shit, well, I'm going to have to wait a year before I watch this. And then Mel's like, well, you know, when everyone leaves or when we're done, like then you can watch it late at night before it.
Yeah.
So I really crammed that one in. But yeah, no, otherwise, if I'd missed the Christmas deadline, I would have waited a whole year.
So not even like even the 25th to the 31st, that's too late.
Yeah, because Christmas is done.
Christmas is done.
In my mind.
Well, I mean, look, I was in for a rude surprise when I went. I had to go into the supermarket. There's a new supermarket has a new Coles has opened up.
Yep.
In Chadstone, and it's right where the JB Hi-Fi and the Officeworks are.
Yeah.
And I had to go in and get, I don't know what it was, something. And I was shocked to find the hot cross buns are on sale
I know.
already.
I know.
I was like, it is literally the 2nd of...
Well, this is what's so weird.
or
Like,
the 28th of December.
I have no faith. I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, but these are little traditions that I have in my mind. And so, like, I get quite annoyed when Boxing Day evening, there's still Christmas lights on houses.
Yeah.
Like, turn that shit off. We're done. We're done.
What were you doing this morning?
That's right.
Sons of bitches.
Anyway, was there anything you wanted to touch upon from your break before we actually do this?
No.
No?
What was the last film that we went to see? It was the
geez.
last film before Christmas. Was it anyone but you? Was that the last one we went to see?
Anyone but... Yeah,
that what
yeah,
it's- yeah.
That was. I saw a funny clip of that. That's the Sydney Sweeney Glenn Powell film. And just going through my notes here, I think that that was our final viewing for the year. I saw a clip of Sydney Sweeney with the Huntsman. Have you seen that behind the
Yeah,
scenes?
where-
And it
where-
actually bit her.
It goes there, yeah.
Far out. Oh, I've been bitten once by a huntsman, and it's not fun.
No?
I can imagine, like, she's sitting there getting bitten, and no one thinks it's real. They think
Yeah.
she's acting
She's
a
just-
bit much.
She's a bit over the top in this scene.
That's right. And Glenn Powell was telling a funny story because this film takes place in Sydney, and there's quite an elaborate sequence where they're in Sydney Harbour. They're actually in the water, and they filmed it in Sydney Harbour. And Glenn Powell was telling people, you know, off the side of the set, you know, oh, we're doing this scene in the harbour. And everyone's saying to him, you're not getting in that water, are you? It's like shark infested. And they had no idea that it's like the most densely shark populated waters, you know, in the southern hemisphere. And he goes, oh, that's all right. They gave us a shark repellent. And when they handed it to him, it was a Fitbit. He's like, that's all? A Fitbit? The shark is afraid of a Fitbit?
Well, it's better if it was my dad. If my dad was a safety coordinator, he would have just given him a hammer. There you go.
That's right. Just poke him in the eye or
It'll
the
be
gills.
fine.
Poke
Yeah.
him in the gills.
They don't like being poked in the nose.
That's
So just...
Anyway, yeah, that was our last film. Look, I don't know how I feel about that still. You know, it was enjoyable, but it was a...
It was funny because over the Christmas break, I was... a friend of mine, his partner is the head of Sony Theatrical.
Yep.
And she was at the New Year's Eve party I was at, and she was like, "Oh, hey, it's been a while since I've seen you. When was the last?" And I was like, "I remember it. Was it the Anyone But You?" And she's like, "That's right." She goes, "Oh, that was not the screening I imagined I was going to run into you at." And I was like, "Look, I don't like going to. They're always at Melbourne Central." And she's like, "Yeah, I know." And I don't like.
Acknowledgement.
I was like, look, I know it's great to see movies early and everything like that, but it bothers me that I have to pay $20 for parking to see a free film when I could just pay $22 to see the movie at a closer cinema and not have to pay for parking. So I don't like to go to Melbourne Central, but there are certain films that I'll make the effort. I won't do it for a Marvel movie anymore. But I will do it for a dodgy rom-com.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, she said that she didn't expect to see you at that screen, and it's like, well, you have not listened to the show. You don't know what we actually love.
Yeah, like the only thing I was disappointed by was that the song that they choose isn't the most sing-alongable song.
Yeah.
And there was no group dance scene,
Or
which I
also-
think all those kind of movies need.
What do you call it? The colloquialisms or whatever you call it were not actually Aussie either. Like,
No,
they were what Americans perceive Aussie, vernacular to
But
be.
I kind of like yes, but then I also realize how Melbourne centric I am.
Yeah, right.
And this is very Sydney, especially like rich people Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Centric. And I was like, maybe I just don't. Maybe I'm not as Australian as I think I am. Maybe I've never heard of this.
Have you noticed how Brian Brown likes to rock up in these very wealthy Sydney-sider type of movies? Like he did that Palm Cove a couple of years ago where, it's about all these people and their problems whilst they're in their palatial fucking Palm Cove mansions.
To be honest with you, I think Brian Brown is at that point in his career where he goes, I don't want to travel more than 20 minutes from my home. And that's the films he does.
Fair.
And he's like, can I wear shorts and a short sleeve shirt with the top couple of buttons undone? Yes, you can, Brian. Sign me up.
That's the other thing that really shit me about this movie too is the little thing that's going on with Brian Brown and the son-in-law or whatever when they're doing the let's pretend they can overhear us and the little pantomimes they're doing behind the bush.
They're Shakespeare stuff. Because this movie is based on a...
That's right.
Loosely based on a... And one of the least interesting, ones you could like. If it was like this is the rom com that, and we base it on Macbeth, I'd be like that's an interesting take. But like, let's take Shakespeare's rom com and make it into a modern there's no.
But you know what I mean? That stuff it was just overplayed. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it was so dodgy. But the whole thing, like they telegraphed every single move. Yet I still find Sydney Sweeney incredibly watchable.
Oh, especially in the shower.
Yeah, well, look, I was chastised, by, I was talking to some friends about it, and I was like, look, I just feel bad for Sydney Sweeney because I think she's quite charismatic and quite watchable.
I do too.
I like to watch her in a film, and I was like, she doesn't really need to take her top off in every movie. As great as her boobs are, it's really kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, hold on a second, let's not go too far. But then you look at she's the EP of this film.
Yeah.
So she's the one making herself get
she
her
knows
boobs
while you've got it, flaunt it. Like, it's not going to be this way forever.
Yeah, look, 100%.
Who was it? There was a famous actress who's now in her 60s or 70s, like a Jane Fonda or something like that. Well, she's in her 80s. But she was looking back and they said, what's one regret you had in your career? And she goes, not getting naked enough in movies because of the body I had.
Yeah.
And I was being conservative. She says, but now that I'm old and it's not there anymore, I wish I had it documented.
Yeah. Well, that's, what's it, Christine Applegate, when she discovered that she had the breast cancer gene.
Yeah.
So she got a double mastectomy.
Yes.
But before she did, she got a lot of photos taken, like professional ones and stuff, just so I've got a record because,
of how good they were.
They were real and they were spectacular.
Yeah. She should have made more movies like that.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie. All right, let's crack on. Let's do this. Top 10 of 2023. We're going to go backwards.
All right, that was such a bizarre.
Segue?
Just that last middle segment of us talking about celebrity tits. It's like
this is not a regular formatted episode.
It's like my favorite episode ever.
I'm trying to keep a conversation, and that is, let's face it, the kind of conversations we have.
Yeah.
All right, let's go backwards here, and we'll go like one each. We won't we won't do all of my 10, and then all of yours will go one at a time. So I'm going to start number 10. I'm going to go right into it with Cocaine Bear. That came at number 10 because I think that it's one of the more fun movies this year. It's not a masterpiece by any means, unless you're within a very specific parameter of genre. Then it is a masterpiece. But yeah, I just had so much fun. You were at that screening with me.
I was indeed.
We laughed our asses off. Like, it was a little bit scary. Like, it was just gory. It was great.
Yeah, the whole ambulance chase scene,
which is one of the great moments of the year.
It's one of the great cinematic chase scenes. Like, it's better than Bullet and The French Connection.
And they teased you with that in the trailer, and yet when you saw it for real, it was so much better.
It's so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, my list this year is pretty. Like, I reckon there's probably 5 great films.
Yep.
And 5 ones I just enjoyed.
Sure.
And even those ones are kind of dubious. And I'm not going to tell you which ones are which, but it should. If you know me, it'll be obvious.
Yep.
But every time I think about comedies on these lists, I always think of that Will Ferrell, Jack Black, John C. Reilly song that they did the Oscars about the comedian at the Oscars and the saddest guy around, because there seems to be a misconception that comedies are easy and therefore the acting isn't as good as like a Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's to the contrary.
I would say it's harder. Like I've never seen a, and we'll get emails hopefully. I've never seen a Daniel Day-Lewis like comedy. I don't know if that guy could do
not
it.
a lowbrow one.
Yeah.
Has he done a comedy? No, I don't think
I
he
wouldn't
has.
have thought. Yeah.
Something to look at after we record because I'm very curious. I would love to see that.
But you know, like I think it's a definite set of skills that not everyone has
Yeah.
to do a good comedy. And when I'm not talking about like a Adam Sandler kind of, I'm going to do a funny voice and bang into something. Though arguably there's a lot more to Adam Sandler films than just that. That's just one element of it. But you know, some comedies are great, and Cocaine Bear is a great comedy.
It is. I mean, that's why they say that comedians make great dramatic actors. There's much more discipline and focus, you know, quite often when you're doing comedy because you've got such a small target to hit.
Yeah.
And you've got to get it with precision. All right, so that was my number 10.
Well, my number 10 is Pearl
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that because it was an honourable mention for me.
for you.
Yeah.
Look, I think I'm in the minority when I say that I did not enjoy Pearl as much as I enjoyed X.
Yep.
Which I really enjoyed, which I could have included this year, but I think I included it last year in my
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was last year's.
top 10. A lot of great stuff, a lot of, you know, gore and fun kills and
pretty to
stuff.
look at.
It's great to look at. It was done on the sly, which I appreciate.
Which makes it impressive on how good it looks and how well it's structured if they did this as a secret film.
Yeah.
You know, that's a real lot of effort to keep that kind of value down.
Yeah. But, you know, look, my only criticism of it would be that it kind of feels almost like half a film, half a story.
Yep.
Like you kind of think that the entirety of this could have happened in the first half, and then she could go off. Then she can escape,
Yeah.
and you know, and become,
Yeah.
you know, the failed actress or whatever.
Because we haven't, I know what you're saying, we haven't had that actual proper transition from what we sort of see her become to what we know she does end up being.
Yeah, like she does become what you know from X.
Yeah.
That happens, but then they don't explain what happens with the husband.
No,
how
there's
he
a-
gets
there's a
in on it.
lot of
there's
stuff
a lot
to
of
fill in.
stuff in the middle there. But you know,
I get it. And only the other day we had a news report about the new installment Maxine having its first screening, and the reports back being that it's a Giallo Argento type of thriller packed with violence and gore.
yeah. Look, I can't begin to tell you how much I'm looking forward to Maxine.
It's a serial killer film set in LA. In the
Yeah.
80s, or 70s, one or the other. Oh,
Be like 52 pickup snippets, the serial killer version.
yeah,
From the John Glover perspective rather than the Roy Scheider perspective.
awesome. Well, then, okay, my number 9. I know this is going to be on your list, probably higher up. Would be When Evil Lurks.
Yes.
So it's a film we've talked about on the show before. It's what country was it from?
It's
Danish?
Spanish, I think.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's or Argentine, like it's South American.
Yeah.
Let's just say South
And
American.
we saw that at Monster Fest. It was opening night, I believe.
It was opening night film. It is on Shudder now. If you are curious and want to check it out,
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it now or when you get to it? Assuming it's on your list.
it is. Look, it's my number 3, but
Okay.
we can talk about it now.
All right, cool. So, I mean, it's such a surprising film. There's so many visual things in this that just catch you off guard. Don't expect it, or you expect it, but not as extreme as it takes it.
Yeah.
Like there's, and I love it. You know, I love it when children are in peril and some
serious-
some shocking shit
Some
happens.
serious peril going on
That's right.
in this film.
Not just once, not just twice, but like they keep putting these kids in these awful situations.
I just love how gross it is.
Yeah,
like
really
it
gross.
just like every aspect of it is just like uncomfortable and gross.
And it does feel like it is like establishing a universe of some sort. Like
Yeah.
you can imagine other films taking place around.
Yeah,
'cause
in this-
what is it? Is it an outbreak?
It's an exorcism. It's
Yeah.
it's a possession. It's basically a possession movie.
Yeah.
But the rules of dealing with the possessed,
Yeah.
which are obviously kind of commonplace, although you think by what happens, because the I guess the conceit of the film is that if the possessed are killed incorrectly, the possession actually spreads.
Yes.
It'll infect everyone in
Yeah.
in a given area.
Yeah.
And this whole film is kind of set in a country town where a lot of people have moved because this is a lot more common in the city, but also the ability to fix it is a lot more.
Yeah. So it's kind of post-apocalyptic in a way.
Yeah,
like, on
and
the
you feel like
fringes.
it's kind of leaning towards it because they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in a kind of a smaller country town in a country area,
Yeah.
and they don't have any of the because at the beginning of the film you don't know it yet, but they find the remains of, as it turns out, like an exorcist who's come to deal with this problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. There's no one else.
Yeah.
There's no one else. Like, they find a woman who kind of, when she was younger, knew a bit about it, but she's not really an expert. She's just someone who survived some stuff, and there's just no one around. And they know that if they, but they kind of have no. It's just an interesting and cool world that they create.
Yeah,
in
it
that-
feels
that
very new.
Damien
It's like a
Rongo
horror
does.
film you haven't seen before.
And this guy, I thought maybe it was his first film, but he's done 4 or 5 prior to this, and I cannot wait to
Yeah.
check out what those films are like. Because, and what I mean by when I say this movie is really gross, it's almost Cronenbergian gross
Body
because
horror.
it's basically, just things that are excreting out of people's bodies that everyone has.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just if you don't deal with them,
Or doing something to another body that
But if you just said, I'm never going to wipe my ass, and I'm never going to blow my nose, and I'm never going to brush my teeth, and I'm never going to, any of that sort of stuff, I'm just going to let it like hang out of me. That's the grossness.
That's Ben's pitch for next year, this year's season. All right. Well, so we're up to your number 9.
My number 9. Now, this one is kind of a cheat. And I only watched it yesterday, so it's a
Fresh
last minute inclusion. But the BBC have started this new TV series created by Nicholas Winding Refn, based on The Famous Five. It's called The Famous Five.
Right.
And theoretically, this episode is just episode 1, but it goes for an hour and a half. Like these are those British.
This is a cheat.
Yeah, but these are these, like Endeavour and stuff like that. If they were made in America, they would be TV movies.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the UK, they call them part of a series. But each episode is
A movie. Yeah.
movie length, and the next episode doesn't it's not
like
the same mystery.
It's a new chapter.
It's
It's
a new
yeah.
it's a new crime. Like in Endeavour, it's a new crime.
Anthological or anthology?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But this, it is always the Famous Five, and they haven't. So just by its running time, just because it's made for TV, I'm calling this a film. It is
Okay.
a film,
Well, I love The Famous Five, so go for it.
and this is great.
Is it English?
It is English. It is set. I believe it is set just pre-World War One. I think I don't.
It's an interesting time because didn't they do the Hardy Boys or something like that as a series recently?
They've done that set now. They've done the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, but they're both set now.
Okay, they're contemporary.
And they both have weird, or at least Nancy Drew has like a supernatural thing about it.
Yeah,
and the Hardy Boys is like they've come home to their parents, the place where their parents grew up, and there's mysteries
they
afoot. Like
discover
their,
stuff, yeah.
the Hardy family legacy isn't as pristine as they would like it to
I
be.
enjoyed that. Anyway,
Yeah. But this is like literally the kids all, even though they're cousins, there's been a falling out in the family, so they haven't seen each other kind of since they were, babies.
yeah.
So they're getting to know you while they go on this adventure, which is the Curse of Kirin Island. The villain in it is the guy who plays Joffrey in Game of Thrones,
Right.
who has developed I don't know, they've dressed him up so weird. Like he's got this gigantic forehead and a tiny face. But he's got like a little kind of mustache and he's it's so weird. He's the villain. He's a great villain.
Because he's a twerpy little kid.
Yeah, yeah.
In my
but
mind.
he's wealthy and he's got big henchmen, and he's just taking on kids.
Right.
But there's plenty of dead bodies, and it's basically like an Indiana Jones-esque adventure.
Yeah, that's
like
why I want to get into this. Like, I'm excited.
and it was just a lot of fun. Like it is 100% what it is. I don't know. See, that's the other thing. I don't know when the second episode comes out, but because they're feature length, it's not like it's not like a weekly.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a weekly thing. Like it's like I said, if it was America, it would 100%. It'd be like those Hallmark Channel movies, Mystery
Yeah.
101,
Well, yeah,
or
what it
that's
reminds
exactly
me of-
what it is.
You had back in the 80s and 90s, I should say, you had the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, which they retconned into movies.
Yeah.
It feels like that. Like, you got these just standalone adventures that hold
Yeah.
up well. I'm excited. I love that you've had, there's been hundreds of movies released this year, and for your top 10, you've fucking got a TV show in there.
Yeah, like I said, I think I did preface it by saying I really struggled for 10 great films.
I don't
this
mind.
year.
I don't mind. I mean, you've put me onto it, so I'm happy. So brings me to my number 8. No surprise here. This is the one that dropped out of my top 3.
Right.
So I've put Gran Turismo
That's my number 8.
at number 8. There you go. This I just can't. I can't talk about this one highly enough in terms of just how much fun you have at a cinema. It's a modern Days of Thunder, which that's the movie that instantly comes to mind. You've got the roar, you've got the tires on the track. Like, it's all shot very similarly to that Tom Cruise movie.
You know what really shocked me, and I think it's a credit to his performance.
Yeah.
But a film that I think is going to come up in both our lists further on.
Yeah.
But the main guy from Gran Turismo is in Saltburn.
Yeah.
It was only after when I was going through it on IMDb. I'm like, oh my god, it's that kid.
Yeah, he's been in something else as well recently, and he's going to be somebody. In 10 years' time, we'll know exactly who this guy is. I can't even remember his name, but
Yeah.
Neil Blomkamp directed this one, and he pulled a James Cameron on this because he sort of invented with his special effects team ways to film inside the cockpit of the car.
Yeah.
Whilst it's sort of in race mode. It's not as special effects driven as what you might think, because he does do the digital effects where he pulls the car apart while it's driving to give you an idea that it's based on a game. But when he's in the cockpit at full speed, that's actually happening, and they've got these optical wires coming through, pointing at him from all directions that have never been done before in film.
Yeah. Look, and I think a big reason why this film hasn't got the recognition that I feel it deserves is because of this idea that it's based on a game.
Yeah.
And it's not based on a game. It's in the world. It's surrounding a game, but it's a true story. It's if you would have told me before this movie had made, or before this had actually happened, that somebody was going to actually do this, I would have gone, no way.
Is it Nissan? Is that who it was? They did the Nissan Academy, and they, like you said, recruited gamers just to try and get their profile up. And it's been a big deal. Like, if you look it up on Wikipedia or whatever, it's still going.
It always, every time I think about it, and they do say, there's a scene in the film where he's approached the board in Japan, and they're like, if anyone gets hurt in this, we're all in major trouble. And it just takes me to that scene in Ford vs Ferrari with Tracy Letts, who is playing like John Ford or and he gets in the race car for the first time. He basically cries like a baby. And you're like, it is, and like Matt Damon is like, this is the part where a civilian would shit himself, and he is shitting himself.
Yeah, I'm glad we agreed on that one for sure, because I don't think it's going to make many top 10 lists.
Yeah, I think that's a shame.
Here's one that's not going to make many top 10 lists. Number 7 here really came in at the last minute because I watched it again 3 nights ago and decided I like this enough, and it's Evil Dead Rise.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Watched it the first time, really enjoyed it. Like, really spoke highly of it, but watched it the second time and just got way more out of it. Like, I felt like I was in the lore of Evil Dead with this one, listening to those records played. You can hear Bruce Campbell in one of those records.
Yeah, right.
And the director I read up on it says, well, that's his idea of Ash being lost in time.
Right.
So they've got recordings of priests in like Haiti or somewhere, reading out the Necronomicon and all that, and you hear Ash in the background saying like, it's the Book of the Dead. You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. Look, I liked the film, but I almost I think I would have liked it better if it was just a standalone rather than an Evil Dead film.
Sure.
But that's my only
problem with this, which seems to contradict everybody else's. They love it. Is the bookends for me the cabin in the woods, like that was. It's kind of, I understand what they're doing. They're taking the franchise from the woods, bringing it to the city. I don't like the way they did it.
But although it does seem, look, it's been a while since I saw it, but it feels like it's actually the other way around.
Well, it is, because the story itself, because that's like an after, like what happens there.
Yeah, it's like the person in the car park goes out to the. So she's actually
to give context to people listening. It starts off in the woods. Something happens very Evil Dead-y, and then it says 3 days earlier, and that's the movie, and then it goes back to
and then
cabin.
it's the very
shows
the
you how it
last
connects.
scene.
Yeah.
is the
Yes,
person.
so I think
from
it's
the-
unnecessary entirely. I
Yeah.
don't think it needs to.
It's actually, yeah.
For me, it was a fan service just to say, hey, we know you want the cabin in the woods. Here's a little bit of that, but we're going to shift this to the city.
I mean, it does, I guess it does make sense because, the way that when they discover the Book of the Dead by digging through the basement of their
The
apartment building,
the
which is
building's
built on a church or
No, it's built-
a tomb or something.
built on a bank vault, and there's an earthquake that happens in the film that unearths the
Unearths
vault.
the vault,
And
right.
the teenage son finds vinyl recordings.
Yeah.
Of
But
the-
they've been
and the-
they've been like mystically bound in this vault to stop the
Yeah.
evil from getting
Yes.
out or whatever.
Yes.
Like there's a
And that's revealed in what they find in the recordings. They
Yeah.
they explain why it's all in this particular location and things like that.
because I guess in the original films, the evil is brought out to the cabin by the
professor.
The professor, yeah,
Yeah.
like he's
Yeah.
studying it. He brings the
He takes it as remote to as remote location as
Yeah.
he can, so he doesn't unleash it on the world.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
He
but,
reads the Necronomicon and that.
but as was established in Army of Darkness, there are 3 Necronomicons.
Yeah.
So this is one of the other Necronomicons. So it fits the universe nicely. You can very easily believe that this is in the Ash universe, and I believe Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are working on now building this franchise up. I think Campbell said instead of doing it one every 10 years, we want to do it every 2 years. We want a new installment. So
Yeah.
I think this one's good enough to do that. Hopefully it was popular enough that they'll pursue it, because Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV show, was just as good, and they canned that. So who knows where the future lies. But
Yeah. Well, they gave it 3 seasons. It's just AMC. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
but
knows
it was
why
so
they-
fucking good. Like
Yeah.
it was to me one of the best horror TV shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, there you go. Number 7.
For me, number 7, Strays.
That's my number 6.
Oh, right,
yeah,
yeah.
so we can talk about that. I'm glad we both had that on the list.
Like, yeah, just like a fantastic comedy. Like, I don't think there was a 5-minute period in that film where I wasn't laughing.
And I saw this by myself in a screening, and I was laughing out loud. And it's very rare for me to laugh out loud by myself. I'll laugh to myself.
Yeah.
But I was in stitches. It just hit every spot for me. And it's the tried and true formula. We've had like Superbad. We've had Good Boys. Like this is just the animal version
animal
of that.
version of it,
It's
yeah.
the Homeward Bound version of that. But fuck, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. And last year on the show, we had the director talking about it, and that's how he approached it, just seriously. Like we all have anyone that's had a pet wonders what the fuck they're thinking. And the thoughts they put into these animals is hilarious.
It's hilarious,
They
yeah.
it's time to go to sleep, and they're all doing that circle around their bed,
Yeah.
trying to find the sweet spot. I loved it, and I love a movie with a real good upbeat soundtrack. And this one really has a good sort of hip hoppy soundtrack to sell the comedy.
Do it. Yeah.
Just the way this dog thinks his abusive owner loves him.
Yeah.
So good.
Like just the idea of the fetch and fuck game. What a great game. And what's his name? What do you think his name is? It's like fuck off or
Yes, I can't
shithead
remember.
or
Can't
something like
remember.
that.
Shithead's from The Jerk.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the dog's name. What he thinks his
What
name
he thinks
is.
his name is, yeah.
Fucking hell. But I'm so glad we both settled on that right in the middle. But what's your number 6?
My number 6 is Talk to Me.
Wow, that's on my list further up.
Much higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, look, I could have swapped this out. I could have probably switched this out with my number 5 pick, which is Cocaine Bear, which we've already discussed.
Yeah. We should have just done it in no particular order.
In no particular, yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, my top 3 are my top 3. They're
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
But I thought this was a really great, inventive horror film. It's fantastic that it's Australian, but that actually does not matter at all.
No.
It wouldn't have mattered to me.
It's made
it's
made the lists of a lot of American podcasts,
Yeah.
for sure. Even the Boneheads threw it in there.
Yeah.
And speaking of Evil Dead, it's like it's one of the most impressive debut films I've seen. To make this effective horror film, and it's your first go, that's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. And it kind of feels a bit like Evil Dead. It's got an Evil Dead meets Flatliners vibe to it, this
Yeah.
one.
And what I like about it is that it's contained.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Evil Dead where now we've unleashed this and the world is fucked. Or like,
Yeah.
like the end of Demons.
There's no
When you're
big
watching it and you're like-
consequence of this film, yeah.
It's like, it's all locked around this it's like the monkey paw kind of thing. You make the decision,
Yep.
and if you fuck it up, that's on you
That's
and
right.
the people around you. But
Yeah,
it's not going to destroy the planet.
It's not consequential beyond that, yeah, for sure. And it's probably the best I've seen Miranda Otto in a long time. She's just got, because I watched this I think 3 times now, and every
right.
time she's on screen, it's funny,
Yeah,
really funny. Particularly because she's real as well. She's just speaking the way most parents speak, but
Yeah.
fuck, watching it from a grown up perspective.
yeah.
Good one, cool. So that came in further up the list for me. My number 5 is actually The Cost, which I've talked about throughout the year on the show. Matthew Holmes' new film. I just think it's a really tight, taut, effective thriller movie. Which, when I was watching Prisoners the other night, I sent a message to Matt, the director, and I said, dude, surely Prisoners was one of your biggest influences when making the. He goes, it was my number 1 influence. So it's a very, very much similar revenge type of thriller. It goes in directions you don't expect it to go. It's quite ghastly and grisly to watch, stomach churning at times. But yeah, just the fact that he pulled it off over a course of several weekends during COVID, that it looks as good as it does, that it's written as tightly as it is, and performed as well. I just think it's one of the best thrillers this year, and the fact that it's local is even better.
Yeah, there you go.
So number 5.
The Cost, which I think we played. We played it.
Yeah, it did. I think it premiered at Monster Fest.
Premiered at Monster Fest. There you go. The Arbiters of Taste. So that was your number 5, was it?
Yep.
My number 5 is Cocaine Bear. We've talked
Yep.
about that.
Awesome. Cool. So that means my number 4 would be The Holdovers.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So The Holdovers, which frustrated the hell out of me because this is Alexander Payne's new Christmas movie, which in Australia didn't get released until just last week in January.
Yeah.
Which I think is outrageous because it's not that it could be Christmassy. It is a Christmas movie. It takes place over the Christmas holiday.
The whole point of it is that it's about this kid in a boarding school whose parents have left him there over the Christmas holidays.
Yes, so
you
I
can't
just
take Christmas out of
I
it.
cannot comprehend why the Australian distributor decided to hold this one off. Like,
I'm guessing that chances are it was because there was a holdback that you can't release this for X amount of weeks and after the US release.
but even that doesn't make sense. I mean, I understand that in business terms, right? But being a Christmas movie, it's like you've missed your audience.
Yeah, it's detrimental to the film, the film's release here in Australia. But the American distributors, a lot of the time, don't care.
No, I know, and the Americans got this one like almost a month before we did. Like this got released,
as
early
they
December.
should. That's when it should be released. But there is also the what's the word I'm looking for? The thought that piracy is a much bigger thing in Australia, and you're like, well, yes, we download more content than maybe anywhere else in the world, but we're not the ones uploading it.
Well,
that's all thanks to you, Americans.
And the reason a lot of us do that is because we don't get these films on time. Like it's sort of a vicious cycle here. But yeah, The Holdovers, I think to me, it's Alexander Payne's best movie. Some people have disagreed when I've said that, but I do. I just think it's his most mature. It's his smartest. I think Paul Giamatti's never been better.
Yeah.
And
look, when I saw it, and I remember you telling me like that you thought I would love it, and I did, and it is on my list, but it's actually at number 2.
Ooh, okay.
It's a bit higher up,
Yeah.
and that's where it switched out from my list on the show.
Yeah.
Which I think Cocaine Bear had actually was my number 3.
Yeah,
Dropped down to number 5.
We've both dropped a couple, yeah.
I thought like finally Alexander Payne's using his powers for good instead of evil. It was like, but admittedly, I do need to go back and watch like his stuff again because I don't know if
I like the only thing I haven't liked of his is downsizing, but everything else I've loved.
Yeah,
Like,
downsizing is a real because there was a lot of hate for it, and I watched it and I was like, I love the idea,
the idea is where it wins, but I don't think he executes it very well.
but but I'm like, but is it? What did I miss?
Well,
like,
for
do
me,
I need to go back and watch
for
it?
me,
And I'm like,
downsizing, the first half of downsizing should be what downsizing was. The
Yeah.
second half, fuck that off completely.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah. But having
because
said
that is
that,
the interesting part is the whole breakup. Like,
Yeah.
let's do it together. I'll go first, and then you. It's
yeah. But having said that, like each film that Alexander Payne has made has been my favorite Alexander Payne movie.
Yeah.
So Election, obviously, then About Schmidt. I'm like, well, this is fucking amazing. Then then we got like Sideways.
That's
Like,
the
well,
one.
this is his best movie, and now it's Holdovers. I just think he outdoes himself each time.
Yeah.
So there you go. And how good's Paul Giamatti? Like this is, I don't think he's been better. He's an
no,
amazing actor.
He's so good. Like, but he's perfectly cast.
Oh yeah, it was written for him.
Yeah.
He's bung eye in this. Just is a character enough.
And that kid, the first thing he's ever done, kind of thing.
He was picked up practically off the street. Like he just did like a blind audition, never done anything like it before. That's incredible.
And he's great. And the cook at the school is great. Like they're all
And they all have their own arc.
yeah.
Yeah, which is and it all fits nicely. There's nothing out of place.
But what I really like about it is that all the assholes in the film, and that you even at the start when you think, is that person an asshole? Maybe we're just not. They maintain their assholeness. Yeah. Like they're true to themselves. Like the kid's parents and his other kids in his class and stuff like that. Like they have some of their reasons, but then you hear the reasons and you're like, hey, no, you're an ass. Like his parents. The reason he gets dumped, he gets held over. Like he's expecting this big trip, and they tell him the day of that they want to go on their honeymoon. He's like, but you've been married for 6 months, and he's like, oh, something always came up.
Yeah,
you know, like at Christmas time, like they've only. It's not like it's a couple of weeks in America. It's not like it is here where it's our major holiday.
Yeah.
And usually you take, the 2-week kind of Christmas New Year period, and then at school you've got another month off.
I know.
Like they've only got that couple of weeks.
Yep.
Like it's a horrendous thing to pull on a kid.
Yep.
The day of, and and then towards the end of the film, the parents turn up and they explain themselves, and you're like, yeah, you still cunts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that watching that also reminded me a bit. Obviously, you've got the Dead Poet Society kind of vibe going, but what's that Malcolm McDowell one we talked about? Is it If?
If. ...
Yeah. This reminded me of If without the massacring.
Yeah. It's very Catcher in the Rye kind of thing, but without that.
Without the darkness.
Without the darkness.
Yeah.
Although justifiable if it did kind of happen. Or not justifiable, understandable.
Yeah. Because it touches
at least
on
some of the kids.
Touches on the themes that push some kids in that direction.
But it is this whole generation that we don't really... Look, we're not in the financial bracket to understand this. With rich parents who send their kids away.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with you on a day-to-day basis. Off you go, and then I'll put up with you during the holidays. Which is, I mean, look, I look at people, some people with kids, and I'm like,
fair enough.
I'd do it. I send them away.
Yep.
It's a great. It's a bit from some. I think it's a comedian's like bit that's going around on Instagram a lot at the moment, where she's like, I hate it when people compare talk about how like having a dog is like having a kid. It's because I've never stopped being friends with people because they got a dog.
That's true. Oh my goodness. So what's your number 4?
That's a good question. My number 4 is Saltburn.
That's my number 2. Excellent. So we're covering the same ground here.
Yeah,
This was my number 1 for a while.
Yeah, right.
And it's sort of come down.
It's a really interesting film. I listened to an interview with the film's director, whose name I can no longer remember, but she's in Call of Midwife. She's an actress.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Outside of this, and I have not seen Promising Young Woman,
which was great. It was a great film.
But she is very middle class, upper class.
Yeah.
Herself.
Yeah.
So, write what you know, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think, has been part of, like, it's a weird thing. The controversies surrounding this film seem to come out on many levels. Like, there's a group of people who are like, they don't like the sex stuff. And then there's another group of people who don't like the class stuff.
I find most people that are offended by just the visceral aspect of this film.
Yeah.
More than anything. Like, but they're the things that, like, for lack of better phrasing, got me off. Like, watching this movie, I'm like, I can't believe I'm looking at what I'm seeing. Like,
well, some of it, like a lot of it, I'm like, I mean, look, I work for Monster Pictures.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
We've released some pretty gross films. And so a lot of the stuff, I'm like, haven't they ever seen Life and Death of a Porno Gang? Like, they do it far more extreme than this.
Okay, so this is interesting because I kind of had that same reaction because I'm shocked at what I'm looking at because of the mainstream
ness of it.
The film, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know why people are so outraged. They clearly haven't watched a lot of cinema.
Yeah. It's weird. And I'm like, I don't know why they're not more offended. Like the stuff that bothers me kind of is more of the class stuff. But a lot of the reviews that I've seen of it have compared this to like Talented Mr. Ripley, which I find really odd because I don't think it's.
I think it's the thriller elements.
I think it's the middle class person wanting to get into the upper class kind of thing. Whereas for me, it's a lot more kind hearts and coronets. Not to give it away. And I just feel like a lot of the people who are saying that haven't seen kind hearts and coronets and Talented Mr. Ripley is as close as they get. But reading I went back before we recorded. I went back and just read the full. Synopsis of Talented Mr. Ripley again, like a Wikipedia thing where they run just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Yeah. And I'm like, no. I think it's completely wrong.
But this is because it is very much a mainstream film, and a lot of the mainstream audience don't look beyond mainstream.
Yeah.
But look, for what it is, I do think it is a genuinely shocking film, but it's also a very fun film. It's a satirical film.
Yeah.
So a lot of that class stuff is satirical. And played satirically, like
And I have to say though, it is one of those like there's a kind of a bit of a reveal at the end of the film, and my main kind of thing about it, my point of contention that I keep thinking about is, was that necessary?
Right?
Was it necessary to show it because it's kind of implied anyway?
Yeah.
And I almost think, would I have preferred it had it just been in my head?
Okay, well, we don't want to spoil it, but we'll talk about that off mic because I'm keen to have that conversation. But yeah, look, and Carey Mulligan in this was actually like a bit of a show stealer for me. She's not a main character by any means, but hilarious.
But they're all so callous.
Yeah, they're awful people.
They're awful people, but like. The son's
the most normal person in the film.
I feel like the difference between them and any other group of friends who kind of who are like this, where they're like friends / frenemies with their social circle, it's just that they don't care if they're overheard. Whereas the lower, the more realistic kind of thing are like, I wouldn't say it to their face, but such and such is a cunt. Whereas they're like, I'm just going to say it to your face. Like, oh, you're just waiting in the next room. I can hear you there. I'm just going to, tell everyone that you're. But I love that there's that at the beginning of the film. There's a scene where the Barry.
Keogh,
I always think it's Cahagan,
the Banshees guy.
From Total Recall, but it's Keogh or something like that, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
His character, sleeps, almost sleeps with the girl because she's kind of jealous that the Felix character has gone off with at the pub and hasn't told her or whatever. And that whole scene where she does that, do you think he'll be jealous? And he's like, I don't think he'll even know. He'll even register it. He won't even care. And she's so distraught by it. But, it's the ultimate fuck you because 2 scenes prior, she's like, well, the reality is he's a poor he's a poor kid that nobody cares about.
I want to watch it again because I think there's a lot of stuff to pick up on, when you know where it goes. So, cool. What's your number 3, is it? Well, my number 3 is Talk to Me, so we don't need to discuss
And my number 3, I think we're kind of like, we could almost skip ahead to number 1 because my number 3 is When Evil Lurks, which we've talked about.
Okay, and then my number 2 is Saltburn.
And my number 2 is The Holdovers.
Okay, so number 1, we're not going to agree on this one.
No, I don't think so. Well, I've already said what my number 1. My number 1 hasn't changed.
Okay, neither is mine. I can't remember what yours was. You
I can't remember.
No. We pay attention, or we care. Mine is You're So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah, the Netflix film Adam Sandler produced. He's in it, but he's not the star. His daughters are the star, particularly one of them.
I wanted to watch this, but it was I ended up watching the other one instead. Whoever the New Lonely Island.
Oh yeah. The mountain one.
The mountain one. That was just seemed to be more easily came up quicker on the newer thing.
Did you enjoy that?
But I did enjoy it. Yeah,
that's fantastic. That made Chloe's list, so that kind of works in. But You're So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah. It's a very John Hughes-esque type of film. Feels like an 80s kind of teen comedy, but it's just so earnest and real. And you feel like these emotions and situations for these teenage girls, everyday situations that other girls would relate to.
I feel like, not having seen it, I feel like it's this year's Booksmart, which I think was which I get the feeling is very similar.
Yeah, yes
kind
and
of,
no.
You know,
Yes and no.
rite end of year rite of passage.
Kind of. It feels much more like 16 Candles.
Right.
It's that kind of film. But I love where they go with. I don't want to give too much away because it is a surprise kind of film. It catches you off guard. So many great actors in it. Louis Guzman's amazing. Adam Sandler's really good, but it's very much honing in on that being a Jewish teenager and having to go through the traditions and the customs, and you don't want to. And
Which, like, as someone who, grew up on the outskirts of that, who has never done it. Like, I worked at bar mitzvahs and stuff like that, and I was like, this stuff is weird.
Well, they've got people like you in the movie that are on the fringes and sort of.
You just look as someone looking in, you're like this is. But I feel that way. Like, now I follow a couple of Fitster or Finster or whatever they're called, Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
And some of them are also religious, and the religious stuff is starting to kind of creep in to the accounts. And I look at the comments, and other people going, "I came here because I'm here for workout content, not here for your Magic Man in the Sky nonsense." And you're like, and you're listening to what they say, like the religious stuff, and you're like, really, this is really like a whole fucking world of nonsense that they've completely bought into.
Mm-hmm.
And if they, like, people on the outside who are like, what the fuck is wrong with, like, this stuff? Are you listening to what you're saying?
Yeah, no, exactly.
And they have the exact same reaction to the people who don't believe. Like, are you crazy? Like, this is just
there's a lot of that in this film too, because you've got these teenagers that just don't get it. They don't want to do any of this stuff, and just because the family says they have to, they've got to comply and go through the motions. And yet they imply also that the adults of this film went through that phase as well, and they got sort of almost, for lack of a better word, indoctrinated into it. Like,
Look, I know a guy who I find it's very similar to, like, that. I always think that's the Freemasons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's the they have the Masons and the Elks Lodge and stuff like that. They're all just like social alternatives to religion.
Yep.
And I know a guy my father used to work for as a chef. He used to cater functions. He started going to church as a way to get business. Like, it's like a networking thing.
Yep. Yep.
But he started, like, slowly. He was not into it at the start. Like, he was, he had a criminal past and he did all this sort of stuff. Now he's incredibly, and that's why I always feel like it's weird, because, one of the arguments about voting ages and stuff like that is that, and lowering the voting age is that, religions get kids at birth, yet you're not allowed to actually have a say in what happens to the planet until you're 18.
Yeah.
Yet you're allowed to be indoctrinated into this cult.
Yep. Yep.
From a young age. And you kind of, I went to school with a girl who was a couple of years below me, but she lived around the corner, and we used to catch the bus into school. And down the road from us was a religious primary school that she went to, so I hadn't met her until we went to high school. And she was right into it, and she still is. She still is, fairly religious. Yep. And I just was like, I just don't get it. But she had always been into it. Yeah. It's like she didn't have that kind of rebellious.
It's a very odd thing. I'm with you. I'm on the same side of the school fence. However, I do have also a lot of respect for the community that they can harbour and stuff like that. Like,
it seems fun, and I love watching a good religious movie.
Yep.
But I loved the free period that I got in primary school when everyone else had to do religious RE. And I got to play with puzzles and stuff in the other room.
Yep. Good times, mate. Good times. Anyway, so there's my number one. You're So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah. I recommend everybody check it out. It's on Netflix. If you love Adam Sandler movies, you will really love it. But if you don't like Adam Sandler movies, this is the one to watch, because he's on the fringes.
It's your gateway drug.
It certainly
is. You watch this one, and then you straight deep dive into Hubie Halloween.
That's right. All right, we're up to your number one.
So my number one is, which is, once again, look, there's a couple on this list. Holdover's kind of one of them, but this one I feel bad about including it only because it was a festival watch, and it's still not out yet anywhere.
Oh, I know where you're going. Yep.
But it is Riddle of Fire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just this.
And since you and Jarrett spoke about this, I've been keen to watch it and
Yeah.
haven't been able to. Yeah.
It's Yellow Veil have it. I believe they're going to release it this year through Vinegar Syndrome in the US, and hopefully somebody local picks it up and gets it up onto the VOD platforms at the very least. Although I will be purchasing the Blu-ray, and I hope they put out some fancy special edition of it, because it is like Under the Silver Lake. It's designed for a fantastic collector's edition, because they've created this great kind of kids universe with magic and alternate kind of computer game technology and stuff, which I would love to have a physical representation of. It's just a fantastic film about these. It's like almost like a choose your own adventure kind of thing about these kids who, at the start of the film, they break into a warehouse and steal this new game system to play this brand new game that their parents won't buy them, can't afford. And when they get home, they find out their sick mother has put a lock on the TV because she wants them to play outside. And the only way that they will let her play the computer game is if they go to the local bakery and get her a cherry pie, a sour cherry pie. But if they get that for her, then she will unlock the TV and let them play. But when they get to the bakery, they've sold out of the sour cherry pie, and the baker isn't on that day. So they have to go to the baker's house, and then she won't do it unless they... So it's just a series of...
It sounds like Good Boys, where they're on that mission to get across town.
Yeah,
just
100%.
Just to find a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited about that one. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
There we go. That was a good list.
Oh, yeah,
and we were on the same page for most of it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any honourable mentions? I've got quite a few I want to quickly touch upon. I'll go three, then maybe you go three if you have some.
Look, the three that I was trying to... I don't know. I don't think they deserved a spot in my top 10. In any given year, there's no way they would have made it there.
Same with mine. Yeah.
That I had kind of listed. Actually, I think there's actually only two. It was Renfield, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and Sisu, which
Excellent.
I also enjoyed.
Funny, when I watched the Boneheads episode recently, they recapped the year with their favourites. Sisu made their top list, and Renfield made their bottom list.
Yeah, right. Oh, their worst
yeah,
films.
yeah. Joe really hated it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to give a notable mention to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem.
I have not.
Would not have made my top 10, but I think it's good enough for a mention. It's one of the year's most surprising films. Surprisingly, and this is as mainstream as you can go, I was really surprised by Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. It's the only sequel I've enjoyed in that entire franchise. Obviously, Mission Impossible was quite good, but Air was a surprising one. The Ben Affleck film.
Look, there's a few films I kind of forgot about. There's a couple of docos in there that I really liked.
Yeah,
I even liked. There's a boxer, the George Foreman movie on Netflix. I quite enjoyed.
Yeah. What was it? The one you mentioned just before. I've got it written down here. Please don't destroy the treasure of Foggy Mountain. That Lonely Island style. That was a surprise for me. That was just It felt exactly like I felt watching that, like I did when I saw Hot Rod for the first time.
Yeah.
So that was great. And Mafia Mama, I'm giving that a bit of a nod as well, because I don't think it's that I loved it. It's that it was so much better than I anticipated it being.
Yeah, which admittedly would not be hard, because I can't remember if you invited me to that screening or not.
I may have.
I think, and I was like, no, I'm not going to, because it may have been a Hoyt's. Maybe it wasn't at a cinema that I particularly wanted to go to anyway, but I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going there to watch this. And I did end up watching it based solely on your recommendation.
Oh, no.
I did watch it.
That's not often a good thing.
It's on one of the VOD platforms.
Yeah.
And look, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
It was more violent than I thought it would be.
There's a lot of killing. There's a lot more sex in it, which I'm constantly surprised by in any Toni Collette film.
I don't know. I loved where it went. I loved the trajectory this woman had, and what she became.
But that was kind of my problem, because I felt like there was 20 minutes cut out where she becomes like a Don.
Well, maybe there was on the streaming.
Maybe I fell asleep through it, and I missed the middle part.
Look, like I said, never going to be my top 10, but it just surprised me. Like, it was a fun movie. I really thought it was going to feel like a direct-to-video type of thing.
Yeah. And the other kind of honorable mention. I will that film that I was talking about, the French film with Laura Calamy. It's called Full Time. Mm-hmm. It's on Binge, and it's an interesting movie. It's about this poor woman who works. She's divorced. She's got 2 kids, kind of under the age of 5, and it's all set in France, and she lives kind of Paris, like every other major metropolitan city, seemingly now has a housing crisis, and the only place anyone can actually afford to live, unless you're super rich, is like a couple of towns out.
Yep.
Like suburbs out. So, she's going an hour a day getting into Paris to work as a maid in a hotel. And this is all set during the massive Paris transport strikes when they were protesting the age increase, the pension age increase and stuff like that. And having been in Paris a couple of times during those strikes, they are nightmares. But so she... Yeah, and she's also she's really struggling to get into work, and her work is suffering because she's and there a lot of people having the same problems. But she works at a really fancy hotel, and they're not as forgiving as they would like. But she's also on the side trying to get a better job because she's got a mortgage that she can't pay, and her credit card debt is climbing. Everything that can possibly go wrong is going wrong for this woman,
right?
And she's also trying to go for this job interview as a kind of as a marketing person, which is what she trained as. But because she had the kids, she wasn't able to work in that field, and she's been out of it for 5 years, and now struggling to get back in because nobody wants to give her a chance. It's just really kind of but it's like one of these kind of movies that she starts at like 8.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, she's down to 2. Like it just keeps going. Everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. She fucks people over. She gets fucked over by people. It's just this kind of non-stop descent.
You've spent more time on that than any of your top 10.
It's just like it was a really fascinating film. The only reason it didn't get into my top 10 is because the resolution is so quick and almost not a resolution.
Gotcha.
Had that been expanded upon a bit more, it would have made it into my top 10.
Awesome.
But it is on Binge, so you can check it out.
Cool. What are the disappointments for the year? Do you have any? I've got heaps. I've got heaps. And I mean, people might not agree with these, but I definitely think everyone is bagging and heaping shit on The Exorcist, right? Exorcist Believer, which, fair enough.
Look, that would be on my list, but I wasn't expecting anything out of it anyway.
Well, but the other thing I'll say is that, they forgetting that The Pope's Exorcist also came out with Russell Crowe, and that was far worse. I think that's one of the worst films of the year. I think Dracula Voyage of the Demeter was a turd. Ant-Man 3 goes without saying. Little Mermaid, shithouse. Asteroid City, fucking awful. John Wick 4, rubbish.
Yeah.
What else have I got? Indiana Jones 5, I really hated it.
I remember you sending that text going, I enjoyed it.
I've watched it 3 times now. I'm trying to get into it. I'm trying.
You're like, it does not, you'll say it doesn't hold up on the rewatch, and it didn't,
It doesn't. I've done it 3 times now, and I will do it a 4th time.
Yeah.
I will persist. This will be my new In Dreams, where I just try it every year.
The thing that I really kind of dislike about it, thinking back on it, it's none of the Indiana Jones stuff. It is all the Phoebe Waller-Bridge
she's
stuff.
awful. I don't like it.
Not that, I don't think that she's bad in the role. I think her character is a bad character.
That's what I mean. When I say she's awful, I mean her character. She should have been a companion to Indiana Jones more than what she is.
They set up Shia LaBeouf a lot better in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull than they do her. She is a kind of repugnant character at the start of the film. Her reasons for being repugnant and kind of having an issue with Indiana Jones are nonsensical.
Yep.
And her character change is unexplained.
Yeah.
That's there is no reason. People don't change unless something, like they say, until you hit rock bottom, until something dramatic happens that makes you reevaluate your life.
Yeah.
Which is why most people don't change, because nothing particularly horrific ever really happens, and nothing terrific happens to her in this film.
And the other thing too is
there's no catalyst.
There's 2 other things too. It doesn't have the same structure as the other Indiana Jones films. It's not the treasure hunt movie that the previous ones are.
Yeah.
It's not we have to get from here to here to here. It sort of doesn't have that flow. and it doesn't click for me. But the other thing too is if everyone thinks about every finale of an Indiana Jones film, they're all fantastical, they're all supernatural,
Yeah.
except this one goes beyond the pale. Like it is so unattainable. I can't even work out why they thought it was a good idea. And everyone knows by now that's a time travel thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if people thought Aliens in the previous movie was outrageous, that to me makes more sense and it's more logical than what this fucking is.
It's kind of when you think that they could have just done the Atlantis thing or something.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
You know,
That's what I wanted.
Which could be like the land that time forgot,
Yep.
which would be a lot more believable than I'm going back to the times of Icarus or whatever the fuck it is.
But if you're going to do time travel, why not go back on Indiana Jones' own adventures, rectify something, retcon it, like make it different? Just this movie was a turd. and I don't think James Mangold was the right director for it in the end. Like he got some of it right as far as the tone and the look of the film goes, but that first 20 minutes of CGI bullshit, that removed me from the story completely right there and then.
I mean, look,
It should have started in New York City.
that didn't bother me as much as the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls stuff, which I don't know what it is, but there's something about digital.
Which stuff though? In
The desert stuff with the painted backdrop, which like I like in classic films.
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. Like you watch the opening scenes of Bad Day at Black Rock,
Yeah.
and it's clearly like a set
I love that
painting.
stuff too.
The whole time, I have no issue with it. It really didn't sit right with me on Kingdom with the Crystal Skull. It was like when we released the editor. I was talking to the Astron 6 guys, and like the editor is a Giallo homage,
Great film.
throwback.
Yep.
They said that originally when they did it, they were going to do the voices. They weren't going to record live dialogue, or they were going to dub over the voices and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And they said when they did it, it just looked like it was out of sync, not that it was a Giallo kind or any kind of foreign movie kind of thing. It just looked like it was out of sync. It just doesn't work anymore. The modern audience,
Yep.
it doesn't. And that's how I felt with that scene.
I do too.
So I didn't have, but I was already expecting after, Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars and, all that kind of stuff. I was like, of course they're going to make young Indy. That didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I liked grumpy old Indiana Jones. I was fine with it.
I think the problem, and it's funny you bring up the Astron 6 stuff there, because the problem with the de-aging of Indiana Jones was they didn't de-age his voice. So you had like an 80-year-old's voice on a 40-year-old's body.
As someone who routinely pretends to be my father when dealing with government services because he refuses to talk on the phone and constantly being questioned, I feel like you're totally right. They're like, "You were born in 1945? Yes, I was. Do I not sound like I was born in 1945?
Well, there we go. There's some turds from the year. Do you have any disappointments?
Let me have a look here. Did I? I mean, look, things like Killers of the Flower Moon and stuff, only disappointments in that I thought it would have been a great 90-minute film.
Yep.
I just didn't think it needed to go for 3 hours.
Yep.
Sorry, Marty.
And I'm getting a bit tired of listening to Martin Scorsese talk about this film, like, and the way he breaks it down. Like he is an authority, and I'm like, dude, like this movie is not as masterful as you think it is.
I just don't care.
Yeah.
I thought there's a really interesting story in there.
Yep.
That he.
Well, he
didn't
ignored
tell.
the original story because the book itself was the FBI procedural stuff.
Procedural stuff,
which
yeah.
I think that's where the real grit was.
I think that's kind of Leo's fault because
It
he
is.
was supposed to play the Jesse Plemons character
Yep.
and went, no, I want to play the idiot.
And also said like he'll only do it if they can find something else to attach, the significance to and the meaning, and so that's where the love story came. I agree. I think that
Which is such a weird because she figures like it's so obvious that he's part of it.
yeah. Well,
And she kind of figures, and she's a lot smarter than he is,
I know.
and still just sticks
I
with
know.
him. It's a bit.
I would love to have seen the book adapted properly.
Rebel Moon was a bit.
Didn't watch it. My son did. Said it was pretty average.
Look, it's 100% Battle Beyond the Stars.
Have you watched
/
both?
Magnificent Seven. I've only watched the first part.
Yeah.
And I don't need to watch the first. I mean, look, it contains one of my favorite things in kind of 80s action movies and Magnificent Seven. I love the team gathering. Like, let's get this band of specialists together, and they, the guys go around and this guy's great with a knife. Look at him do this, bit, and this guy's, and they do that here. But it's
Why do they keep letting Zack Snyder make big movies? Because I feel like his audience is dwindling. Like,
Yeah.
I really do. And the tides are turned against him, and he's ridiculed now. But they keep giving him these big projects.
yeah, he needs to do like what Michael Bay did with Ambulance.
Yeah.
and kind of take it like go back to the
Absolutely, 100%.
go back to the roots.
Yep.
Um,
I want to challenge every big director, even Spielberg, to go back and make a movie for $10 million, maybe $5 million, and see if
yeah,
they can do it.
See what you can do.
Are you as good as we think you are? You should be able to make something great with that.
Look, I didn't. I tried to watch the beginning of 65 and couldn't do it. Couldn't go any
The
further.
dinosaur movie.
The dinosaur movie with Driver.
I didn't hate it, but it's on no lists of mine.
Oh fuck it! I tried to watch White Men Can't Jump.
Don't bother with that one.
Fucking hell, it was horrible.
That's a movie that never needed to be remade.
No. Well, I'm all for a good sports movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't it.
But also, like, just how about re-releasing the original and introducing generations to it? Like, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Look, other ones.
Never mind.
We had the director on the show, so I'm not going to mention that film.
How long ago?
Mid-year, I'd say. I think we had it around mid-year.
You can say it. They're not listening.
No. It's look. I think it's kind of unfair. Like it's
Okay.
been touted as one of the worst films of the year anyway by most people.
Sure.
It also made a fuck ton of money, so you got no one to blame but yourself, people.
I'm so curious. But okay.
Let's just say that the lead protagonist wears pants and he shouldn't be wearing pants. That should tell you what the movie is.
Doesn't.
It doesn't.
We'll afterwards,
Yeah.
Hopefully people listening understand that.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything you're looking forward to this year? It's a big year for releases. I find it funny. It's hard to look forward to movies that aren't sequels or reboots because you don't kind of know.
Yeah.
You have no anticipation.
I'm looking forward to the new Ghostbusters movie.
Absolutely.
If anything, just because I like Bananarama's Cruel Summer. And every time I see the trailer, I'm like, oh.
I just think Afterlife was impressive enough for me to be
Yeah.
excited for a sequel. Beetlejuice 2 I'm very excited for, which I think the actual title for that is now Beetlejuice.
Oh, there's a movie coming out, I think, on Thursday. The rowing movie?
Oh, it's great. Boys in the Boat?
Boys in the Boat.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
It is fantastic. It's George Clooney directed it. Joel Edgerton plays the coach. Fantastic. And I thought of you because I wasn't allowed to take a +1 to this one. And I thought, of all the movies Ben would fucking love,
Yeah,
it is this one.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it the other day, and
And
I'm
they
like,
have to go to
"Ooh."
Berlin and row in front of Hitler. And it's just great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, so I think I will. I've been looking for an excuse to try out that new Village. It's now. I literally was. I think we were having this discussion the end of last year when I was saying I'm going to go see Indiana Jones at the new Village. Village Cinema across the road from IKEA in Springvale, because I've been looking for an excuse to check out that cinema, and I still haven't been there because I ended up going to see Indiana Jones at Knox instead. Maybe I'll go see this one there.
Okay.
Because I think on Thursdays when it opens.
Let's just say we're only a week or two into the new year, and it's my favourite film of the year.
Yeah, right.
It's the only one I've seen. I'm looking forward to Spaceman, the new Adam Sandler one with Paul Dano and Kerry Mulligan. It's like a science fiction thriller. It's not an Adam Sandler comedy. That looks quite good just from the trailer. Civil War looks interesting.
Yes, yeah, another Jesse Plemons.
He looks great
film.
in it too.
I think, because what I kind of miss, and Anonymous really threw a wrench into the works, but I miss that kind of Roland Emmerich, end of the world movies. Like he used to do those really well, and that not Jupiter Ascending. What was the one he did where Moonfall about the giant constructs, which was actually unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I love the actual, the joke through the film is that Josh Gad guy or whoever the hell it is.
Oh, yeah,
the
I
Josh
don't know who
Gad
you
like.
mean. Yeah, the British guy.
Yeah, sorry, that's right. The Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah.
It's like talks about the mega structures, and you're like, this is like they all look at him like he's crazy, and you as an audience member go, this guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And then that is the thing, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Because he's like a flat earther, really.
They went for this. I've watched Nazi mega structures on SBS before.
Dean Devlin did do that Geostorm one as well.
Yeah, which I thought was the kind of the beginning of the end of Gerard Butler's career. I thought he was going to, but no.
It's the beginning.
Yeah. then he did. I mean, that's actually one that I could have kind of
Plane?
included. Plane, I
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
enjoyed.
he's got a bunch coming out this year as well.
Yeah, like he's just the man he keeps giving. Like he's white Michael J. White.
Totally. We did a trailer reaction to Lisa Frankenstein. I think that looks quite good.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, and what's his name too? The I'm actually surprised you didn't include it in your list. The Aliens movie about the alien who don't believe the romance.
Yeah, so we've got A Landscape with Invisible Hand was
Yeah.
one of my honourable mentions. We prattled on long enough I didn't
didn't
include it,
do
but
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was quite good. And the other two I'm looking forward to, Horizon, the new Kevin Costner Western, which he's broken into two films, but released a month apart, so it's not like we have to wait a year. That looks good. And Furiosa, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, like I saw the trailer for that, and
It was never going to be up your alley because of how you feel about Fury Road.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
And the thing I think it's just important to get it out there. There was a lot of hate for Fury Road because there's a lot of kind of misogyny about the Furiosa character.
Yeah.
That is not my problem. My problem has nothing.
It's
my
the
problem
story.
is the story.
They just go from one end to the other.
Yeah, they literally. Let's go to this place, and then we'll get there. We'll just turn around and come straight back again.
Look, we've been down this conversation road before, but I kind of feel like that's how number 2 and 3 are structured as well.
But I also think, and two, I think it is a continuation of the worst bits of Beyond the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Whereas the Mad Max I like is
I get that.
Mad Max,
But
the
clearly-
first one.
Yes, first one.
Which
for the
is
win for
like
me.
I like a good, and even the second one is a more post-apocalyptic version of the first one.
100%. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think they are the two best of the franchise.
You know.
But I think George Miller is just obsessed with this over-the-topness of Mad Max.
Yeah,
You know?
and he loves the dudes on the pole.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
They're bringing
Which is
those
fine
back,
because
and
it's his own universe. He's created this, and I love that it's him that's expanding it and not someone else coming along to do that. Look, I'm looking forward to this one. I think
I just don't want to. I just don't think that the guy who now has his glasses attached by a string around his neck is the guy who should be creating action.
The only criticisms I've seen, and I think it's a bit premature, is that where Fury Road was predominantly practical, with very little CG other than some augmentation, this one looks to be abundantly
More CG.
CG. Well, whatever. I'm looking forward to it. So there you go. That's the year that was. That's the year that's coming. That's a pretty good conversation, I think. This is the first of a couple of summer series episodes. So thanks for sticking with us, and I hope you all agreed on some of those. top
Let us
10
know.
ones.
Jump onto all of the social medias that we're on, and let us know what your top 10s were.
Absolutely. What I failed to mention, and I'll just put this for conversation online purpose, the new Sniper Grit.
Oh yeah.
That-
I did see that text.
Everyone knows how I feel about the Sniper franchise. Yeah, that installment belongs in the trash.
Which, I mean, I wonder if this is one that everyone else then now thinks is good.
Have you seen that? This is no joke. Sniper has been dominating Netflix. It's the surprise hit of the summer or Christmas
This one.
break. All of them.
All of
So
them.
suddenly the top 10 on Netflix most watched, 4 of them are Sniper films.
Right.
And a couple of weeks ago, 5 of them were Sniper films. And Grit is sort of floats around number 4 or 5. But it's the last few that have been dominating.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been a good... The Snipers had this rediscovery.
I think it's like Fast and the Furious. That remember, like Fast and the Furious franchise had like those two or three good ones. Once Jason Statham entered the franchise, that he had like really, and now it's gone. Like I just haven't bothered watching the last two.
Well,
I
I watched this new one, Grit, and I immediately got online and I sent a message to Chad Michael Collins. I said, "Please tell me there's an 11," and he's like, "Maybe."
One I forgot to mention in the things I'm looking forward to is that Beekeepers.
Yeah, Jason Statham.
Statham
Oh,
one.
absolutely. And
Looking
Jared
forward to
Butler's
that.
got another one similar to that where they're starting to name these action movies after professions.
Right.
Like it's like The Baker or something like that.
I'm looking forward to Candlestick Maker when that one comes out.
Well, we had The Accountant, now we've got The Beekeeper.
Yeah, and I enjoyed The Accountant.
Me too.
Surprisingly good
Supposedly
film.
another one coming to that as well.
I don't need to do my taxes twice. One was enough, I think.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We have another episode coming up in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to have a special guest at the desk, Aaron Goxie, who, the majestic mullet man, the purveyor of Chalky Milk. You know who he is. He's going to join us for chat about his favourite movies. But until then, let's sign off, Ben, and go watch some movies.
Let's do it.
Ciao.